I want to live. Four words that for me sum up the spirit of One Piece beautifully. Four words that affirm how, in the company of our nakama and in pursuit of our dreams, life has meaning. Four words in defiance of those who, in their fear and their greed for power, often disguised behind words like justice and the greater good, would take meaning away from others. These four words are words of courage, of love, of affirmation. They insist, despite loss and sorrow, on the beauty and the wonder of life. They give voice to the eternal yes that underlies existence. I want to laugh. I want to cry. I want to live. Me too, Robin. Me too. Let's talk about the Enies lobby and post-Enies lobby arcs of the Water 7 saga. Let's talk about One Piece. On the way to Enies lobby, we see Frankie and Robin still captive, and Frankie's joy and defiance are still evident. He is such a beloved character for me because of this saga. I really enjoyed Frankie a lot. And I really love his affirmation to Robin when he simply tells her existing is not a crime. What a moment. And of course, we proceed to Enies lobby, which is formidable and bizarre, a product of Oda's fertile imagination. It is ringed with peril. And it is also, of course, where the world government asserts its right to dispense justice, an important symbol of power to bring about the consent of people around the world. And we also here meet the rest of CP9. And we see the colorful alliance of the Straw Hats, the Frankie family, and the Galila crew. And there is, of course, Sniper King there with his cape, his heroic cape, and everyone except for Luffy and Chopper, it seems, and of course many of us fans as well, realize that Sniper King is actually Usopp, but Luffy is just such a lovable idiot, and maybe he is not very perceptive sometimes in ways that are conventional, but he is still very perceptive and brilliant in other ways, in that he asserts in an almost prophetic way in this moment that Robin doesn't want to die. And true to form, he ignores the plan and just leaps out ahead of everyone to find and protect his beloved friend. And here we see the loyalty of Luffy and the Straw Hats once again. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about all the fight scenes and everything, but it is, of course, crazy, over the top, delightful, hysterical, chaotic, and of course, there are incredible odds facing our friends. You have giants, you have a devoted frog, you have new devil fruits, and so much more in all this epic action. And it all showcases Oda's wonderful imagination. Amidst it all, of course, you have Spandems, or as I like to call him, Spandex, because Spandex is really not my style. You have his continual assertion that in perpetrating violence and oppression, in other words, sacrifices, as he calls them, he is working for justice and peace. And how 1984 can you get, you know? You also have Lucci's insistence that murder is justified. And you have the symbolism of the three-headed Baskerville, the Chief Justice of Enies lobby. And this, of course, I feel has to be a nod to Monty Python. Go and watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where there is a three-headed giant, which is just absurd and silly. But I think the symbolism that Oda brings to this is just brilliant. You have an assertion of just how contradictory and whimsical and inconsistent and self-serving justice can be in the world. And it turns out, in the end, to be a sham, that this three-headed giant is not what it seems, that it's actually three individuals playing at being a chief justice. When you sort of have the curtain removed, almost like in The Wizard of Oz, you have the curtain removed, and there you see how things are really working behind the scenes, and you realize this is a sham. So that's a really powerful moment there. I think that Oda is just brilliantly weaving into this statement and his exploration of justice and where it comes from and its consequences in the world. And you have this beautiful, determined alliance to save Robin and Frankie. And I just love every moment of it. And amidst it, we continuously see the impossible, which Oda often symbolizes with flying. Even a sea train can fly. I mean, you've got it all right there. You've got a train that runs on the sea and it's flying. Just brilliant. But there is this refusal to give up, the will to keep on fighting, to keep on living to the end, even when everything seems hopeless. This is the beauty of One Piece. It's not just about the power that the friends use to defy the villains here. It's also about the forming of bonds. It's about all kinds of touches here and there of cleverness as well, such as the moment when Usopp wins over the giants and brings them over to their side. There are just so many heroic moments in all of this. There are also great new insights into some of the beloved characters, such as Zoro's demon summoning with his sword and the Asura that is invoked. The Asuras being figures of opposition to the Devas in the Hindu pantheon. And you also see Luffy with his new gears. I mean, he risks everything to save his friends here. And I think that's a cool thing that we're seeing here with the development of these new powers, and that they dig deeper and deeper within themselves to call these forth. But there's also a danger in that. There's a danger into tapping into so much power. And it's a little bit ominous, and I think perhaps a bit of a foreshadowing of something that may be coming in the future in One Piece. As our friends tap more and more into their powers, there may be consequences that are not so welcome. And a lot of this reaching for more power is often accompanied by some delightful comedy, such as the moment when Frankie expands his his butt in order to help Robin. One One Piece definitely leaves you laughing and crying simultaneously. The pathos of Robin wanting to die in order to spare her friends, but also this is coming from her despair, the despair of a life, which I'm going to talk to a little more detail later. But this despair is contrasted with Luffy's nose-picking reaction and his stubborn refusal to abandon her, telling her he's going to save her now, and she can die later if she wants to. He is a true nakama. And the Straw Hats, all of them, line up to let Robin know that they are there for her in such a beautiful moment. I did a lot of laughing and crying while reading this, and just so many great highlights that I could shout out here. But Robin's anguish is given full expression through her flashback when we learn about the tragedy of her youth, the loss of Ohara, and the use of weapons such as the Buster Call by the powerful to annihilate entire populations, erasing the humanity of such people by reducing them to others, to abstractions on a map. The cowardice and heinousness of slaughtering people from afar with overpowered weapons, that's what we see here, belying the loud claims of those committing such atrocities, that they are doing this in the name of justice and peace. We see the loneliness of Robin's youth, but also where she derives her passion for knowledge, her ideals, her belief that knowing the past is crucial to making the present and the future better. Those from the past have a message for us, a warning to heed. And this is symbolized beautifully by the poneglyph. And we see Oda's brilliant symbolism again. The place where the scholars gather on Ohara in pursuit of truth is the tree of knowledge. This, of course, has a very biblical resonance, and those like Professor Clover, Robin's mother, Olvia, and Robin herself, those who defy the powers that be in seeking knowledge to shed light on the void of history, are punished because they threaten the control and the narrative of those who are in power, which, of course, they will enforce with terrible violence to keep their power. This, of course, relates to Oda's exploration of religion-backed authoritarianism in the Skypiea saga. You certainly do, though, have some who work within the system with integrity, like the giant Saul, who sees the humanity of the oppressed, and ultimately he chooses empathy over obedience. He chooses humanity over power. And of course, he pays a price. We also learned that Aokiji, and thank you for those of you who helped me with the pronunciation, we learned that Aokiji, or as Kuzan, as he was known before becoming Aokiji, we learned about his complex relationship with Robin. He is both an ally of a sort and a threat. And of course, his interpretation of justice is something that seems to be an interesting one. He does not agree with those he works alongside at times when they go, in his eyes, too far in their pursuit of justice. At any rate, Robin survives, a small light of hope, as the world government destroys Ohara and slaughters its people in the name of controlling the narrative and retaining power, burying the secret of the void in history that occurred when the world government rose to power. I found the development of Robin's character and her backstory so compelling. She was probably already my favorite character in One Piece, but now we get such a close-up of her personal tragedy, the destruction of her home in the Buster Call in the name of justice, the separation from and loss of her mother, her years of survival, her trauma, and the betrayal that she experiences by those who should have protected her. Her isolation and the exploitation of her by those with ambition, like Crocodile. No wonder she's found it difficult to form bonds. She fears for those that she loves. But also we see her determination to honor the past and thus also the future, to uncover and preserve the truth, to be a light in the darkness, with the promise of Saul's words that she will one day find a family again, that she will not always be alone. She has trouble accepting this message of feeling worthy because she fears being a burden and a danger. But that family that she's going to have is, of course, the Straw Hats, and they won't let her deny it. Luffy defies the darkness and the overwhelming power of the world government when he tells Sniper King to shoot down the world government's flag. It's, of course, tapping into the symbolism of the flags here. We see it all the time with the pirate flags. But this is a defiance of the inhumanity and power of the idea that justice doesn't involve sentiment. This is an affirmation of sentiment and the value of the individual. Luffy urges Robin to confront her value and her desire to live. And she does it in one of the most beautiful moments. My favorite panel of this the entirety of One Piece so far has to be when Robin asserts that she wants to live. And she wants to go to sea with her family, to continue the adventure of life, to pursue her dreams that give her meaning. This is, of course, when the outcome of this entire thing is decided, but how's it going to go down? And we're going to have, of course, a lot of fun seeing how it does. So there's just epic action that follows from here with so many moments of hilarity, some endearing absurdity, unabashed silliness, and, of course, win if it kills you heroism, such as Frankie's destruction of the blueprints for the Pluton, or the several duels between the Straw Hats and CP9, where Frankie is already acting like one of the crew. I got that one right. One of my predictions I actually got right, so I'm pretty happy about that. We also see the hunt for the key to unlock Robin and the crew reaching the limits and beyond. And like when Chopper transforms into ironically a monster, because of course he had been called a monster, and we know Chopper's not a monster, but there is this level apparently of Choppers, and this is again tapping into more power, but there are consequences to tapping into this, and I really love that Oda I believe this is something that he's going to follow up on, but I love that he's including it here. I think as a kind of foreshadowing of what's to come. Of course, I wish I had time to relive every one of those moments in this video, but I don't. But here are a few that really made me laugh and cheer, such as when Frankie's moment when he says, "No one calls me panties," or Zoro's nose storm the killer blade when he's got poor Usopp on his sword and he's using it as a weapon. Oh my goodness. Or Sanji's comeback as the hunter and his recognition of his teammates' strengths while he is affirming Usopp's place among the Straw Hats and how necessary he will be in this quest to save Robin. You have Luffy's ability to bounce back again and again for his friends, and Robin's determination to live. And of course, Usopp's heroism while singing the Sniper King theme song. What a glorious moment. It's just wonderful to see all the Straw Hats working together and the final scramble to avoid the destruction and the inhumanity of the Buster Call as everyone digs deeper to survive and to save their friends. And one big shout out to Kokora the mermaid here for her moment as well, for saving her friends from drowning. And the reunions. I love a good reunion in storytelling, and there were some beauties here. There's nothing like an emotional reunion to get the tears flowing and to affirm the value of family. You have Nami and Chopper swatting Sanji aside in order to embrace Robin. You have Luffy's final battle against Lucci while his friends are waiting for him and rooting for him, and Usopp urging Luffy to fight on so they can all go back together. And you had the survival of the Frankie family and the Galila crew. That was a beautiful moment, and I was very happy for Frankie when he realized that his bros were okay. And then, of course, you have the final escape, a last escape from the world government forces, thanks to some cleverness from Sanji in closing the gates of justice and thus throwing off all those cannons aimed at the Straw Hats and their friends. And also, of course, the incredible navigational skills of Nami in finding the winning path through it all. But most of all, the final appearance of their home and their fellow crewmate, the Going Merry. Now, did I cry over the fate of a ship? I am not ashamed to say that I did. It was such a beautiful moment for me when the Going Merry turns up and calls her crewmates to her one final time. And we learn how Iceberg shows up, of course. He shows up and he informs the Straw Hats how he helped the Going Merry to give her all one last time for them, like a true member of the crew. And it is the end of a splendid life. It is also, I think, a moment of real reflection about, yes, this is a story about never giving up, about pursuing your dreams, but death is also an important part of life. And this is a moment of acceptance. There is, of course, at the Going Merry's funeral, a fire funeral at sea, you do have a touch of comedy with Luffy still not realizing that the Sniper King is Usopp, thinking, oh gosh, it's a good thing Usopp's not here. He'd be taking this really hard. You have these just gorgeous use of flashbacks. And this is something that Oda does a lot, I realize, but I love it here so much. The gorgeous use of flashbacks that just rip your heart out as all the crew say goodbye during this funeral is just so beautiful and so poignant. And afterwards, there are new beginnings and promises of new adventures and a bigger world. You have Frankie's dream and the jewel tree called Adam. This is a name that, of course, is very suggestive of origins. And the result of Frankie's dream is his ship of dreams, his desire, of course, to have the Straw Hats be the ones to sail it. It's interesting to see how Frankie went from a ship builder, ships with weapons when he was young, to a point where he was traumatized because someone exploited his ships in a way that was destructive. And then finally, he becomes a dismantler as a result of that trauma, as a result of that experience. It's like he's trying to take apart the thing that earlier he had built in order to allay his guilt from that, what he regards as his betrayal in a way. Of course, it's inadvertent, but his ships were used in the plot to incarcerate and kill Tom, his mentor. But it's so beautiful how he goes from shipbuilder to dismantler to, again, a shipwright, one who builds ships here. So he's gone full circle here, and I really love this moment a lot. And then, of course, there's Garp, Luffy's grandfather. Okay, there's a ton of, and especially in the post Enies lobby, just a ton of revelations here. And I felt like I was getting hit left and right with all these big bombs. But Garp is Luffy's grandfather. Whoa, okay. And of course, there's the four emperors. We learned about the four emperors, of which one is Shanks, my buddy Shanks. I'm looking forward to some more Shanks here. And of course, these four emperors are in opposition to the world government and the world government's seven warlords. So I feel like there's some just epic, huge stuff out there on the horizon here. And of course, you have Kobe and Helmeppo. Can't forget Helmeppo. And of course, they have their dreams. And there's all this talk about the new world. And oh, wow, what a promising horizon that is. And of course, there's this rivalry slash friendship between Kobe and Luffy. Something that I'm sure we're going to be seeing much more of in the future. And then I can't forget Monkey D. Dragon. Monkey D. Dragon, a revolutionary and Luffy's father. One question I do have is, does Monkey D. Dragon also pick his nose like Luffy and Garp? He seems a bit too serious to be picking his nose, but I don't know. And of course, we have to have a party. Now, Oda, as everyone has been telling me, loves his parties, and here we have another beautiful one. But the moment at the party that I loved the most was when Aokiji whispers to Robin, and quite apart from the rest of the gathering, you have this reminder of their rivalry slash friendship, and this final affirmation that Robin has indeed found a family, and that she will make her life meaningful. So I thought that was a really nice parting there. And another big thing we get in here is the meeting between Whitebeard and Shanks. There are huge implications here. Also some history and backstory, including mentions of Gold D. Roger. But Shanks, fundamentally, he's there to ask Whitebeard to call off Ace from his search for Blackbeard. So there are implications here for this new era that we are entering upon. And it looks like it's going to be an era of chaos, a descent into madness and grabs for power with increasing stakes. And with the Straw Hats making a very big impression with their new bounties, I thought it was so funny how Sanji reacted to his picture. And of course, you have poor Chopper not feeling so great about being worth only 50 berries. So even there's some comedy. But there are, amidst all of this big reactions to the Straw Hats and their exploits, there are two more really emotional and also just hilarious moments. One is, of course, Frankie joining the Straw Hats, being goaded very publicly through the abduction of his Speedo and the chase through the streets of Water 7 by the Frankie family, with Luffy playing a role in all of that as well. The urging of Iceberg, I thought that was a beautiful moment. These two brothers, Iceberg urges Frankie to forgive himself and to pursue his dream. And of course, a final role in all of this is Robin's very firm hand, or I probably should say firm hands, urging on Frankie as well. So yes, you have the Straw Hats who finally do get their ship right. And I got that one right. I'm so happy. I got that right. And I also kind of sort of got the return of the Going Merry. It was a brief return, but she did come back for a little bit there. And the other moment that made me laugh and also made me cry at the end here, and I just love Oda's ability to do that, to simultaneously make me laugh and cry, and sometimes I don't know which to do first. But of course, that moment is the return of Usopp to the crew. While Garp is attacking them in accordance with the orders, he doesn't really want to do it, but he's following his orders. But not, of course, without cheering them on when they escape. But I love how you have this scene with Zoro insisting that Usopp must apologize for his earlier infraction, for his earlier disobedience, his defiance of Luffy as the captain. You have to function as a crew. That was what Zoro is trying to emphasize and teach in this moment. And of course, the others do accept that, and Luffy does accept that. But this leads to the emotion of Usopp's eventual apology, which is matched by the emotion of Luffy's response. Just beautiful stuff there. Luffy and Usopp are friends. Luffy is his captain too. And I thought that was just a wonderful reunion once again and a healing of the family. And thus the Straw Hats unified once again and even expanded as a family. Set sail on the Thousand Sunny, their new ship built by Frankie, which with its flight promises camaraderie and new adventures ahead, even as it echoes the flight of the Going Merry with a little bit of a nod there to their old ship. So I'm excited to see where the crew is going to be going on the Thousand Sunny, and I'm sure there are some incredible adventures ahead. And while the world hears about the exploits of the Straw Hats, the saga ends with the confrontation between Ace and Blackbeard. It's a bit of an ominous ending, I have to say. There is this confrontation between darkness and fire. This is an ominous promise that this new era is going to be one of great danger and greater challenges and troubling times, times that will be perhaps a lot to go through for the Straw Hats and will test their bonds in ways that have not happened heretofore. So those are my thoughts for the most part on this incredible journey. I am just thoroughly immersed, thoroughly enjoying this series that is One Piece, and I appreciate all of you who have been following along, giving me wonderful comments of encouragement, helping me with pronunciations, giving me tips, staying away from spoilers. I'm going to be continuing this journey, of course, until I catch up with everyone, until I catch up to where Oda is, hopefully later this year. I'm also going to be talking with some friends here on YouTube about One Piece because I'm eager to have some discussions. Now that I'm pretty far into the series, it's time for me, I think, to have some discussions with folks. So hopefully that's something I'll be lining up very soon. But yeah, that is it for me for now. Until next time.